What's up, everybody? Let's do a little live stream. I know this is kind of a last minute one. That's what we're doing. We had some communication issues on our end here, technically. So, all right. As you know, I've covered a little bit of the protests, the pro-Palestinian protests, the post-October 7th Hamas invasion protests. I've covered those, but not much. I've gone to two of them. It's kind of like these are just a bunch of knuckleheads. Well, the knuckleheads, they're getting violent. And what you've got going on is you've got the far left, you've got the extreme left, just basically taking this movement, and this is their trend of the day. Trend of the day. Now, up until this point, we've had basically a bunch of kids in pup tents posing as protesters. Things are starting to accelerate a little bit. They are at Columbia University. That's been kind of the focal point at the university level. And this morning they broke into a library, and I think you're going to see just a bunch of more violence. And people say, well, if it's an inanimate object like a library window or a library door, is that really violence? Yes. The answer is yes, it is. It's wildly violent. I think you're going to see more and more of that. University of Washington just got their act squared away, the mostly peaceful protesters there. Initially, they had a bunch of white kids who were all gung-ho to do the protests, and then they looked around and yeah, there weren't enough kids that didn't look like them that were protesting, and so they kind of got shut down. They've reopened, and they're pitching tents on lawns. That's what they're doing, and then hey, could you bring us in some? I was reading this morning. Could you bring us in some homemade food? We've been out here a whole 24 hours, and all we've had is pizza. So yeah, we're going to cover a smorgasbord of related topics on this issue today, because I think right now we're making that turn, and that turn will be the far left, the protesters. They're going to start going hard, just like they did back in the Summer of Love. This is what they do. Why would they not go down that route? Take to the streets, F the police, no justice, no peace. You've already got a whole bunch of that. Now they're starting to crack into libraries. They're getting shut down in Florida. They're taking a slightly different approach to the protesters, and they're saying they're not children and they're going to be treated accordingly. In Texas is just doing work shutting these ridiculous protests down. Let's get into it. Let's read the first article. And this is kind of a good one. Media can't blame Biden's disasters and campus hate, so they blame it on conservatives pounce. So is that what I'm doing right now? So I am covering an important topic that's happening in American history right now. You got a bunch of knuckleheads that are protesting, and they want to have these universities diversify themselves away from any company that might be considered supporting Israel. And here in Washington State, that includes Boeing. All right. Yeah. These universities, they're not wildly intertwined with Israel. So a lot of these universities are just saying, yeah, no, we're not doing that. But here's what we will do. We'll do a little study on this. Some of the things that the universities are trying to placate the youngsters with their pup tents on the, quad areas of the universities. They're just trying to throw them something. Hey, maybe if we throw them this bone, they'll go chase that bone, and they'll forget about this whole diversify, because these things are just absolutely ridiculous. The whole premise of what you've got going on here is just absolutely absurd. It's just absurd. And then you've got the far left saying, yeah, but a lot of things have changed in the United States that wouldn't have if we wouldn't have had these school protests. Proving once again that the press never learns its lesson. Can you guys read that? Yep. Proving once again that the press never learns its lesson, the Washington Post graced us this week with a humdinger. Trump and the GOP, the grand old party, they seize on campus protest to depict chaos under Biden. I mean, that's what I'm doing. But am I doing this to depict chaos under Biden? No, that's already happening. That's reality. That's what's going on. I mean, so by me covering that, somebody made a comment this morning. Do I, hate on a lot of minorities that are in power, that have political issues going on? I cover a lot of things that shouldn't happen from a policy standpoint, and leadership a lot of times in those positions. They've got a lot of crazy stuff going on, and I cover those. Does that mean I'm just out to hate on minority leadership? No, I'm covering the issue, which is you got a bunch of Looney Tunes who are protesting for things they just don't even know what they're talking about. They have no clue, just absolutely no clue. Best example of that is the LGBTQ, whatever, the alphabet people community trying to do all this support for Gaza. And if they were there, it would not be a good sight. I mean, it's just, they'd be annihilated. Let's be honest. They would be taken care of, and not in a good way. Just, get rid of them. Yeah, don't believe in that. But here they are in the United States, pro-Palestinian. So we've got this depict chaos under Biden. This followed a New York Times headline from December. As fury erupts over campus anti-Semitism, conservatives seize the moment. No, we're just kind of pointing it out and saying, these are the shenanigans happening today that shouldn't be happening. And what we're seeing right now is that pattern of kind of ramp up, slow ramp up. And then all of a sudden you've got a turning point. And that's where I think we are. And I just said that not earlier, but that's kind of what we're doing today. In short, nothing is ever a problem because it's a problem. It's only an issue because conservatives seize on it, or better yet, pounce. I'm pouncing on this issue. I'm pouncing on the fact that a bunch of jerk-offs broke into the library at Columbia University, and they're padlocking themselves in. And could you bring us some warm homemade food? Because we've been in here for 15 minutes, and God, we're hungry. Breaking in and destroying, campus buildings, that's hunger creating work. But Americans, particularly Jewish Americans, are coming to their own conclusions about how terrifying these protests are. That's the thing about the rhetoric, the chants they're extremely violent. They profess violence against Jews. There's no other way. When you're talking about eliminating Jews from, from the river to the sea, that's pretty clear. I mean, it's clear. It's clear what they're protesting. And so they are using that to protest what they perceive is, just this oppression and genocide. Genocide's their big deal. And yet they ignore that whole October 7th deal. They ignore the fact that Hamas is, crazy terrorists. Let's work over that, because Israel, they're the real oppressors here. All right, guys. All right. But Americans, particularly Jewish Americans, are coming to their own conclusions. Look at this picture. Welcome to the People's University for Palestine. The People's University. What does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, this whole activism, this whole direct action thing, I think it goes wildly sideways. I really do. They witness students taking over public areas, pounding on windows and accosting people, demanding that Israel surrender unconditionally to Hamas terrorists. Yeah, why would that happen? You know what the crazy thing is? You're like 7,000 miles away. Israel isn't listening. Hamas isn't listening. Nobody cares. And yet these folks are virtue signaling, and they're doing it on, campuses of these elite universities. Kind of shows. And these elite universities, they're not really doing much. And they're just not. And they're not doing anything about this crazy anti-Semitism on the campus. Like, hate speech against Jews, totally okay. That's fine. And, they're not saying that, but what they are saying is, you got a right to protest, but do you have a right to hate speech? And I would say, no, hell no. No, get that out of here. No. Doesn't matter what side you're on. That whole thing is like, no. And take your pup tents with you. And John Fetterman said that. I thought that was funny. A bunch of pup tents out there. And they are. They're just little tents. And yeah. They read about activists cheering for Iran over the United States, disappointed that the Ayatollah's missiles didn't kill more people. It's ignorance and bile spewed on social media. You know, when I first started following this topic, I was like, are you really going to be supporting, Palestinian efforts in this? I mean, really? That's the side you're taking? Okay. You see Israel as the oppressor? All right. No one is depicting anything. This is reality. And that's what I'm saying. This is reality. Some kid breaking in, bashing out, has hammer, and we'll see that in a second, but he's got a hammer, he's bashing out windows. That's straight up violence and taking over. I mean, isn't that kind of how CHOP started? It is, right? Oh, but Republicans highlight images of turmoil, though most of them pro-Palestinian demonstrations have been peaceful. Well, so far. And by peaceful, yes, but the chants and things that they're holding up on signs, those are not peaceful. But because they're actually not beating down on somebody, they're mainstream media is able. It's mostly peaceful. So the Post continues without shame, using the same language, the same lie that it did during the George Floyd riots. 100%, absolutely, that's what you're doing. No, it's not peaceful to chant from the river to the sea and call for the eradication of Israel. No, that's not peaceful, because in order to get from point A, which is Israel exists, to point B, which is from the river to the sea, we got no Israel, you're going to have the eradication of Israel. And so that means you got to step over that line, and that's not peaceful. It's not moral to rip down the posters of kidnapped Israeli civilians. It is hate, pure and simple. What's up with that? If you want to stay out on the side of the road, do your thing with your sign, whatever, free speech, right? When you take down posters of kidnapped, people in Israel that's been kidnapped, and you still got 100 or something left in Gaza by Hamas, over 100. I mean, that can't be going well. That can't be going well for some of those ladies, right? 6 months later, those people are just going to be absolutely messed up. It's kind of like, was it during Carter? We had the, what was that? Was that like 400 days of the, I think that was Carter, right? I was a kid. We had the hostage. We had the Iran hostage situation. Man, that went on forever, right? So much seizing and pouncing during the Biden years. In 2021, the Associated Press reported conservatives seize on gas crunch to blame Biden and stir base. No, that's just happening. And when you report reality, that's called news. So transgender athletes dominating women's sports. The Hill had Republicans seizing on that in 2023. That's because that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Got a guy who just identifies as a woman and, just absolutely dominate women in whatever sports. I mean, there's so few sports where that isn't a thing, right? Because size matters in sports, right? It matters. Bigger, stronger. That's why you don't see a lot of short Asian ladies playing in the NBA, right? It's not going to happen. Conservatives pounced when soft on crime District Attorney Larry Krasner said Philadelphia didn't have a crime crisis. But that's not really pouncing. That's more like just pointing out the obvious. Does Philadelphia have a crime? Yes, it does. We report on it. That's called the news. Republicans not only pounced on high inflation, but CNN said that they exploited the painful cost of living increases. You're exploiting them. Pointing these things out, that's not exploitation. That's just called, here's our reality. This is what we're working with. Yeah, but because it doesn't bode well for the current administration, because so much of this it's self-induced. It's self-induced by Biden. Inflation's going to be transitory. A little fatigued from all the pouncing, Republicans zeroed in on Biden's handling of the border. What handling of the border? He basically had a hands-off policy. Give everybody a ride wherever they want to go to. Just bring them in. Bring them in. And so media reported on that. And is that pouncing? Yeah. Something you may have noticed, all these issues are real. Inflation has exploded under Biden. Allowing biological men to compete in women's sports is unfair. Totally. I mean, it's wildly obvious. How you can come to any other conclusion other than that, and how you can come to any other conclusion other than, the eradication of Israelites in the whole deal with Hamas, how you can come up with that as being anything other than, just wildly violent, I don't know. Well, Israel's the oppressors. Yeah. Letting criminals free with no bail and decriminalizing things like shoplifting does lead to an increase in crime. Talk about that a lot here on this podcast as well, right? These are all absolute reality that we've been covering. These are issues that are important, and they're important to a lot of reasonable people. And now what you've got going on college campuses, it's going to turn, and it's going to become more violent, and you're going to have more of this. It was mainly peaceful. How come you arrested everybody? Because you're wildly interrupting, college campuses. How about the Jewish kids on campus? What do they think? What do they think about their administration just letting this happen? I mean, that can't be a good feeling, right? I mean, if you're a Jewish kid at school, you got to be like, holy cow, there's a mob of people with, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel from the river to the sea going on. That doesn't exactly make me feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable walking through the quad to get to my next class. Plus, you wear anything of, identifying yourself as Jewish, they're probably not going to let you pass because they've taken over. They've got their encampment. But hey, where's the pizza? Where's the pizza? You know what? We're trying to eat good during this encampment. So where's the homemade food? Yeah. Is it pouncing to point out the truth? Hell no. That's just called the truth and the news, right? Americans are sick of being lied to by smug journalist elite who claim the problems we face are simply partisan talking points. It has backfired on the press before, and it will backfire on them again. Americans don't need anyone to seize on the things they can see for themselves. That's the bottom line here, right? If you can see it, you see what's going on. Yeah, and this current look is just, it's a super disjointed look because you're so far away. You're so far away from the issue. 6,000 plus miles away from the issue. I don't know why I point that way. I just always do. I just assume what we're talking about is somewhere over there. I don't really know. That is to the northwest. You look at a globe, would that be accurate? No, we'd have to go south and west. That's to the northwest. Yeah, who knows? All right, let's move on. Here's what we're talking about, right? Let's see if I can move that. Get this. No, that's not right. All right. Anyway, okay. Yeah, that's that picture. All right. This is the kid that was smashing windows at Columbia, letting themselves in, and they're doing a little protest. This is at the library. Then they basically locked themselves in. So, pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses have entered their second week. Just as many of the universities. Yeah, this is graduation time. That's another issue here. Imagine being like a law student trying to get through that very last little bit of school. And this is what you're working with. You got a bunch of nut jobs running around. Why are they all wearing masks? Somebody needs to tell all these kids that the pandemic is over and that they don't need to wear a mask anymore. Plus, you never really needed to wear one anyway because it didn't really do much good. But yeah, they're wearing the headpieces and they're wearing the masks, so they can't get identified for their illegal activities and the violence that they're bringing and they're going to bring moving forward. Hundreds of students have been arrested by law enforcement on various campuses, with Florida and Texas just leading the way there, and I'm all for that. I think it was in Texas where they brought in officers on horses. That was great. Shut it down. It's ridiculous. If you're doing hate speech, you should be shut down. If you're doing peaceful protesting and you're not taking over a lawn, One of the chants I heard was, "Whose lawn? Our lawn. Whose lawn? Our lawn." And that's somebody making fun of the fact that, whose streets? Our streets. This is our lawn. And it's not your lawn. You're paying like, 50 grand, 75 grand. I think Columbia is $90,000 a year, $100K a year, $100K a year. And you got a bunch of just absolute shenanigans happening because school leadership is, it's far left. We love pro-Palestinian stuff going on, so we're just going to let this go on. A central demand of protesters is for universities to divest from Israel-linked companies that they say are profiting from the war in Gaza. How about this? Have you thought about this? What would happen if every single one of these universities, let's see if I've got do I have a map? I know I've got a map here somewhere on one of these. It shows all the schools. What would happen if every one of these universities just immediately said, "Oh yeah, okay, we're going to divest. Yeah, oh yeah, we got nothing to do with Israel. We got nothing to do with Boeing. We got nothing to do with even, third down the chain in the supply chain of companies doing business with anything to do." What would happen if they immediately did that? Yeah, they'd probably spin to, back into we need a ceasefire immediately. But they know that the university doesn't have anything to do with that. Nothing to do with that. One of the university officials was saying, we can't really do anything about what you're asking us to do. They've always got a laundry list of just ridiculous stuff, right? Pie in the sky. We need you to divest. So at Columbia University, the epicenter of the protests, at least 200 students have barricaded the entrance to Hamilton Hall, one of the buildings occupied during the 68 student protests. 68, it's when I was born. Thank you. All right. And about a dozen are occupying the building. Overnight, protesters on campus made their way from the West Lawn, there we go, lawn, whose lawn, our lawn, encampment to Hamilton Hall. Hours earlier, the university announced it had begun suspending students who refused to leave the encampment before a 2 p.m. Monday deadline. So what you've got going is they always start with that, well, this is free speech and this is mostly peaceful and this is just kind of what we're doing. And then they take a hard left turn, no pun intended, and then they just go down this crazy train of, well, while we're at it, why don't we just try and light some federal buildings on fire? Let's go down that. Let's just see how this works out, right? Because they know that they've got that whole, mostly peaceful behind them. Started off for a couple of weeks. And how long has the student protest been? Yeah, about a couple of weeks, right? So now we're going to get into the good stuff. I'll go over to UW. I'll go over to the quad over at UW and take a look around and see my old stomping grounds. And yeah, I didn't really enjoy my time there all that well. It wasn't as liberal as it is now, but even then you could kind of recognize that, these really aren't my people. This just isn't, I was there for business classes initially and then political science because I wanted to go to law school. Yeah, just a bunch of crazies running around. And it's just gotten worse. It's just way worse now. Criticism and praise of Texas governor after dramatic use of troopers on protesters. Hey, it's his call. He wants to use state troopers. Take down some stinky protesters. I'm all for that. I have no issues with that, especially if they're breaking the law, right? I mean, that's the issue I have is some of these universities like, in the sake of freedom of speech, we're going to allow this to continue. Haul them in their tents off to the dumpster because that's where they belong. Don't take the people out. Ever seen people taken out in a tent? Pretty funny. As word got out that pro-Palestinian protesters were planning to occupy a lawn on the University of Texas campus, Governor Greg Abbott made a dramatic move, calling in more than 100 state troopers with orders to clear them out. Good. I say good. With that decision, which leads to dozens of arrests amid video of riot-clad troopers on campus. Remember, during the whole George Floyd thing, people were like, God, do we really need our police militarized like that? They look like stormtroopers going into war. Well, what a lot of what happened was war. It was a domestic war, right? And Black Lives Matter and Antifa were nothing more than domestic terrorists. And that's where I think this goes, because you got the same exact players. You got the far left just cherry picking. Yeah, I bet you most of these people had no idea where Israel was located, where Palestine, where the Gaza Strip, where any of this was located prior to October 7th. They are literally just taking this as a cause and running with it, because that's what they do. They don't have any real causes of their own. It's just, cherry pick somebody else's, co-opt it, and run with it. I mean, this is a big one. So now you've got schools all over the U.S. And so schools, in like Florida and Texas, they're pushing back and they're saying, no, we're not doing that. Then you got other schools who are, it's interesting. Some of them have a little bit of a response. Some have no response at all. Some of them are like, we encourage you to do whatever you need to, freedom of speech. Yeah, but then when you're just, absolutely hammering on Jewish people, that's a tough look, isn't it? It's a tough look. So Abbott sought to reassure his party and the rest of the country that Texas would not countenance a replay of the extended protester camp at New York's Columbia University. It was the latest move by Abbott to position himself as one of the most assertive red state governors in America, eager for a fight with the political left under the national spotlight. Yeah, he's done work. He's done work, right? But the aggressiveness of the response has alarmed students and faculty. Good. Maybe it'll get them to wake up and go, oh, what's going on here? Nah, they're never going to wake up, right? They love this stuff. Campuses love this stuff because it gives them a cause for something that, they can protest for, and they can argue with university leadership, and they can demand divestiture from Israel, and they can demand an immediate ceasefire. None of that's really going to happen. It's just not, right? Plus, you're so far away. This is a non-issue, right? I shouldn't say it's a non-issue. It's an issue from the standpoint of this is what's going on. But it's so ridiculous to think. Like, you wake up one morning and you don't know dick. Sorry, you don't know anything about the Middle East. And then all of a sudden, somebody tells you, hey, you want to go down? We're in the dorms. We're up, 20th floor in one of the dorms. That's where I stayed my first quarter at UW. Hey, you want to go down and see all the tents, all the encampment? And then you get around a bunch of people, pro-Palestine, from the river to the sea, doing all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, you're on board because you got nothing else going on. Like school's, going to end here. That's what we're doing. Yeah, we're just going to go down and protest. And there's videos out there. I tried to grab one, but on the Discord channel, I posted one in the humor section. It was, and you've probably seen it. It's a gal being interviewed, a woman being interviewed. And the interviewer's like, what's your stance on this? And she's like, I don't really know why we're here. I wish I should be more informed, and asking their buddy, why are we here? Divesting from Israel, I think. I think that's what, they're just there. They're college students. They don't have a lot going on. They're hanging out. But that has accelerated. You have seen that accelerate by the number of tents being erected on campuses all over the United States. So, but the aggressiveness of the response, this is Greg Abbott's response in Texas, has alarmed students, faculty, Democrats, and even some Republicans who have previously sided with Abbott in his crusades to protect free speech on college campuses. There's free speech and then there's hate speech. Two different things. In this pro-Palestinian stuff, it always ends up being hate speech, right? Because they just can't help themselves. Then he asked them about Hamas and what they did, 1,300 people, whatever that is, they're killed. You ask them about that. Well, it's justified because, Israel occupied. The third-term governor has already staked out a national reputation for his envelope-pushing policies to secure the Texas-Mexico border. He's doing work. He really is. And I admire what he's doing, and I love what Governor Ron DeSantis is doing. University of Florida comes down hard on protesters. Not a daycare. That's a great one. This isn't a daycare. It's so funny. The conservative governors, they come up with the most basic of statements that just go viral. This is not a daycare. Oh, it's not. Oh, it's a college university. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. You're right. right? You know what I mean? It's like, it's not a daycare. It's so funny. Yeah, let's watch a little video. Let's see. Sorry. Let's start this one over. Here we go. This going? Yep, should be.
Ho, ho, the occupation has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho, the occupation has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. We want justice, you say how? Colombia, divest now.
Most of those people chanting that have no idea what they're talking about. They literally have no idea what they're talking about. I mean, they're just like, what we're doing. University of Florida has said it is not a daycare after 9 people were arrested during pro-Palestinian protests on campus on Monday, yesterday. Video footage posted on Instagram showed what appeared to be state troopers arresting protesters on the Gainesville campus. You know what? Let's take a little peek at that. I mean, why wouldn't we, right? We've got some competing music here. This drives me crazy, these auto plays. All right, here we go. Here's Florida. Do we have volume? Yes, we do.
On you! Shame 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 on you!
Look at this. And the occupation now. Blue hair.
Let them sit! 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 Let them sit!
About enough I can take of that, right? I mean, you're around that. If you're an adult and if you've been around that for a couple hours at any point in time, it gets in your head, and you're at the end of the day, you're like, I gotta go. I gotta just cleanse my mind. I need to go watch like ESPN or something for 2 hours straight and just get this ridiculous out of my head. Because that's what it is. It's ridiculousness. And especially this cause. This is just so bad. Here's one. Where the hell are the parents of these deluded Columbia students chanting about attacking Jews? Where are the parents? You know what? These parents are liberal to send their kids to a liberal college, and they're okay with it. They can't endorse the whole attacking Jews thing. They just never talk about that. Well, you know, that's not really what our chant means. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. You just don't want to come right out and say that, you know, you don't like Jews. You don't want to do that. It's because it's, you know, it's not a popular opinion. But we know damn well that you don't, because otherwise you wouldn't be endorsing this whole thing. And you tell your kids, hey, you know what? That's not cool. What are you doing, knucklehead? You got shenanigans going on there. Cut it out. I'm not paying any more for your college tuition if you're going to go around monkeying around with your future like that. It costs around 90. So this is an article from Piers Morgan that I thought was pretty funny. It costs around $90,000 a year to attend Columbia University. Most undergraduates do 4 years of studying there, which means if they're not getting any subsidized grants, their parents are coughing up a total of $360,000. It's way over 400, right? Yeah, what is it? 500? You add in all the expenses, whatever. I don't know. That's just for their tuition, housing, food, and books. Okay, so we'll call it $360. Add in other expenses like travel, and mommy and daddy won't be getting much change out of $400,000. Nope, it's a lot of money. But those parents would doubtless consider it a price worth paying to give their child what is supposedly one of the best educations in the world at such a supposedly elite institution with a supposedly world-class reputation. Aren't these colleges taking a hit? Aren't employers looking at these colleges going, yeah, don't really want to be associated with a lot of anti-Semitism because that's not a good look. But hey, freedom of speech, let's have that. I use the word supposedly, Piers Morgan does, because Columbia has now proved itself to be none of those things. World-class this, world-class that, education. Instead, it's become a disgraceful hotbed of toxic terrorism, supporting insanity, and its lunatic students have literally taken over the asylum. 100% agreed. I mean, you watch these chants, kids got blue hair. Why do you have blue hair? What's up with that? You look like a Smurf, right? You're a Smurf child, and you're protesting about something you don't even know about, which is 6,600 miles away. So what are you even doing? The increasingly disturbing situation on Columbia's campus exploded last night, Monday night, in shocking and shameful scenes as a violent mob broke into one of the university's historic buildings, then brandished a banner with the word Intifada. That's special. That's good. All right, guys, you're really getting somewhere with that. As if there were any doubt about their intentions, they brazenly harassed and intimidated Jewish students, holding some against their will. And that's where the violence comes in. You're going to have, unfortunately, you're going to have some beat downs. That's just, here they are breaking into campus and getting their arms through there so that they can turn the lock, and then they're just going to take over. It's going to be a revolution, and it's all going to be great, and the university's just going to divest from Israel. No, it's not. Another of the mob's banners demanded a liberation education. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? What are they talking about? Which is ironic because these morons are hopefully going to get a harsh lesson in real-world education on the legal repercussions of committing crimes like trespassing, property damage, assault, and false imprisonment. Yeah, they're holding kids against their will, right? And not letting them pass, not letting them get out of these, encampments that they've done. It's not cool. And we know it. And we know what the game drill is. It's just, but as I've watched this escalating mayhem, one thought has kept reoccurring to me. Where the hell are their parents? Agreed. 100% agreed. What are their parents doing? Like, who's running the asylum here? And where are the owners of these miscreants, right? How could anyone be happy or proud of their child abandoning their hugely expensive tuition to be part of a self-styled intifada against Jews? Yeah. Oh, man, little Jimmy. Well, I guess little Jimmy and little Susie, at least they're in school, right? I mean, yeah. Now, their parents probably supported whomever back in 68. Revolutionaries, right? It's like, you're getting nowhere with all that crap. It's silly. There's the sign. Yeah. There's the sign. Intifada right there. Ugh, that's crazy. This has gone way beyond an expression of free speech or right to protest or legitimate criticism of the way Israel's government is waging the war on Hamas. I've heard a lot of BS spouted since these protests started about how most of the students taking part are entirely peaceful in their intent. When you're talking about the eradication of everybody, in a certain area, that's not peaceful. It's just not. So this whole notion that it's peaceful is just, well, we saw overnight that is nonsense last night. For days now, the Columbia demonstrators have been chanting, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." And there is only one solution: Intifada revolution. Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't get much more violent than that, does it? No, it doesn't. But hey, since they're just words, it's mostly peaceful. Neither of those phrases is ambiguous or remotely peaceful. What about What about, what was the chant? Silence is violence, something like that. If you're not saying anything, you're part of the problem. But these guys are just coming right out and saying it. Yeah, don't like the Jews. Don't like the Jews. Need to get rid of them. Need to get rid of them. We're justified in getting rid of them. I mean, if you want to come out and say that, just do it. Don't hide behind a slogan like "From the river to the sea." Chant alludes to the land between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, where, of course, Israel sits. So, yeah. To a Jewish ear, it's a violent call to erase Israel from existence, which is the stated intent of Hamas. Yeah, and so if you're supporting Hamas, you're certainly not on Israel's side, are you? No. As for Intifada, we all know what that means. At least those of us with a modicum of basic knowledge of Middle East history know what it means. Intifada is an Arabic phrase that translates to uprising or shaking off. Became notoriously immortalized by the two that erupted in 1987 or 1960, is that 87? 87 and 2000, when Palestinians rose up against what they deemed the longtime Israel occupation of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. So it goes into a bunch of, talking about those. Whatever your view of the rights and wrongs of this, there is one undeniable fact. These were violent uprisings. And that's what they're promoting. That's what they're going after here. This is what we really want. It's absolutely nutty. It's crazy. And yet these are far left extremists. Most of the time, these aren't even really students. Students will, they'll come once it's all set up. You've got these far left agitators, and you see pictures of, some of the kids that get arrested. All right, you're a college student. The other ones, they're like in their 30s. They got full-on beards that are starting to gray. And no, those are professional agitators. That's Antifa. It's the far left. Those are the people you got to worry about. When's the last time you heard anything about the Proud Boys? I'm just saying, I'm not a supporter of Proud Boys. When's the last time you really heard anything about them? They don't seem to play a part in this at all, because they don't. Because it's only the far left that are supporting the oppression by Israel, right? That's their deal. That's their thing. So, you can't really hammer on the far right here, but you can hammer on the left, the far left, because they're the ones that are doing all this. This is their cause. This is their flavor of the moment. Oh, I just really like the whole pro-Palestinian thing on the campuses. Oh, it's so good. We got to stay in tents. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. We're going to sing Kumbaya, but in a different language. But honestly, I wonder what the hell they're thinking if they're involving themselves in those chants or standing near those banners or seeing fellow Jews being jostled and threatened. Yeah, that's where the whole concept just goes sideways, right? Round them up, arrest them, get them off, take their tents with them, get the tents into a dumpster. Are they really encouraging another violent uprising against their own people? If so, have they taken leave of their senses? No, they're just impressionable kids, and they're morons. They're morons. And they're saying, this is going to be great. Right? And you've got a bunch of far left extremist leadership that is, we'll show you what to do. Oh, yeah, we'll get a protest. Oh, yeah, we'll bring the tents. You betcha. Come stay with us. Whose lawn? Our lawn. And where the hell are their parents? Many of them must be horrified, but why aren't they doing anything about it? Are the parents horrified? I would say deep down, these parents are like, nah, I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. Yeah, protest. Now, they don't really mean from the river to the sea. That's a theoretical chant. You know what I mean? That's more about the oversight of, this whole process, this whole thing going on. I think the parents, if you send your kid to a liberal school, you're more inclined to support this. Now, where the line gets drawn there is this whole, don't like the Jews thing, right? And that's a tough one to kind of get past here. It's a tough one. Aside from the hideous anti-Semitic rhetoric, there you go. If I were paying $400K to have my child educated at Columbia, I wouldn't be too happy seeing what. You know what? If you're paying $400K for your kid to get educated at Columbia, you're on board with this. That's where I disagree with peers here. I wouldn't be too happy seeing that child risking their chances of completing their degree or even jeopardizing future employment by chanting on camera about launching a violent attack on Jewish people. Nope, I wouldn't want to see that either which way if I was a parent. But I'm also a parent. And these parents, somebody back in 67, 68, they were out there chanting, right? Yeah, that's my generation, right? That's my generation. So, actually, that's the generation before me. So, you know what I mean? Generation X, late baby boomers, who that'd be, because I'm Gen X. I wouldn't be too happy about that, launching a violent attack on Jewish people. Okay, yeah. In fact, I'd be livid. Yeah, but that's kind of taking a conservative perspective, and you're probably not going to encourage your kid to go to Columbia if you've got any conservative perspective. Well, it's a really good school, Sean. For what? For what? Yeah, I'm a hard no-go. Universities now, man, if I had kids now, I don't know what I'd tell them. All right, go into a trade school, going to learn how to be a plumber, going to make more money, actually going to make a difference in the world. You won't have this degree in whatever that's just ridiculous, and you won't have these stupid opportunities to pitch your little pup tent in the quad and, have a, just have a big anti whatever protest. So, especially if I saw scores of faculty members in orange safety vests joining the students in solidarity. But that's what they're all about. They love it. They're just into this. It's the greatest thing. A lot of social change can happen when you've got people that are willing to, expand on their First Amendment rights. You're like, whatever. We salute you. We stand with you, bellowed Shauna Redmond, a professor of English and comparative literature, to the mob with her megaphone. And we're so proud to be your professors. They're on board, 100% on board. They're on board. Yeah. Yeah. The only thing they don't come out and is just say that they, are anti-Semitic. Oh, no, it's all about the free speech. Yeah, right. How on earth has this come to be? I'm all for the right to peaceful protest. It's the bedrock of any democratic society. And I'm all for university students vociferously expressing themselves about world events. But when you make direct calls for violent action against Jews, that just doesn't cross my red line. It tramples all over it. And that's what I agree with as well. From the first protest that I went to, and it was very clear that From the River to the Sea is that's kind of the focal point of these protests. And that right there says it all, but it's so subtle. It's so subtle if you just say the words and you don't pay a lot of attention. It doesn't come right out and state it, but that's 100% the implied meaning, right? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, meaning Palestine takes over. Get rid of all those pesky people there now. Yeah. And if this were one of my kids, I'd be headed straight up to Columbia faster than Usain Bolt on Adderall to drag them out of that hateful, tented tinderbox. You know what? If you're a conservative, you wouldn't let your kid go there. If this was really a big deal to you, if you're more of, a conservative parent that's like, well, I need my children to, really flap their wings and get out there and fly on their own. And if they take a little bit of a younger person's impression of all this and they want to support that, then I'm okay with that. Because you can't control your kids. You can give them influence. You can't make them do something, right? You can't think that way. You can think that you can, but ultimately you can't, even if you're paying the bills. So not least because I suspect many of these protesters don't really understand what they're doing and have been swept along in a wave of virtue signaling, peer pressure to show how much they care about God. None of these people give a rat's ass about Gaza. Seriously. They just don't. And to say that they do, I've seen kids that have family history. Maybe they're from Lebanon. Maybe they're from, Iran, Iraq, whatever. And they've got some family history. And they might understand the implications because their families have, taught that to them over the years. It's part of their cultural heritage. But vast majority of these folks here that we're seeing do the protest, yeah, they're just total virtue signaling. I remember a similar frenzy after George Floyd was murdered and sparked a social media campaign titled Blackout Tuesday, in which everyone was urged to post only a black square to show that they cared about what happened. I don't like enforced shows of Instagram or Facebook groupthink caring or otherwise. I don't either. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So let's keep going here. Let's move on. All right, here we got 79 arrested amid second crackdown on University of Texas Austin campus. They've been doing work there. They're just like, they're not having it, right? Not having it. This hate speech, we're like, no, not doing that. And, like everything else, if it's conservative, then you've got a law and order approach. If it's not, like Washington, University of Washington, we're as blue as it gets. Seriously. I mean, it's just like, whatever, just, have your way with the campus. Campus security, no go. We're going to stand them down. You guys just do your own thing. And they do. And then it, devolves into one of these deals. And authorities arrested a total of 79 people during the second police crackdown on pro-Palestinian demonstrators at the University of Texas at Austin since last week. It's according to the Travis County Sheriff's Office. The protesters were arrested during a Monday demonstration on campus and booked into the Travis County Jail. Travis County Sheriff's Office spokesperson said Tuesday, 78 of the people arrested are charged with criminal trespassing. One of them has additional charge of obstructing a highway or passageway, while another person is charged with interfering with public duties. None of the arrested have been booked before a judge as of Tuesday morning. The arrest came after protesters started an encampment on the university's south lawn on Monday morning. The encampments are a whole nother level. You are basically violating campus policy, because if you or I went out there and just, took our tent and, put it on down, what do you think would happen? How long do you think it would be before campus security came by and said, no go, can't have you camping here? How long do you think that'd be? 10 minutes? 15 minutes? 5 minutes? And yet, if you're protesting and you've got a far left deal, I mean, again, I go back to the Proud Boys. If the Proud Boys had some kind of, protest on campus at the University of Washington, there would be law enforcement, there would be campus security. And if those people started to whip out a tent, how do you think that'd go? Oh, not well. Not well. That's why you don't see it happen. You just don't see it happen. Jonathan Cho from here in Seattle, he got fired from Como for literally covering a Proud Boy event. And I'm in no way endorsing, Proud Boys, but it's kind of that far right, and then you got the far left. And, you're taking a look at what's going on, and the just complete allowance of the far left, the extreme far left, of just to do whatever the F they want and then whine about it when they get arrested. It's crazy. But then that's why, a lot of conservatives don't really believe in the education system the way that it sits now, and especially not the schools that are just, playing tiddlywinks while the kids just run around, pro-Palestine, from the river to the sea. Law enforcement officials warned protesters that they would arrest them for criminal trespassing if they didn't disperse. This isn't a daycare. Officers eventually marched down on the protesters, dragging dozens of them before deploying pepper spray, good, and flashbang explosives to disperse crowds of hundreds of people. Good. I'm glad. That's what they deserve. They shouldn't have been there in the first place. You want to bring your sign on the sidewalk, walk around, do that whole peaceful protest thing without hate speech? All right, that's your call. It's your call. But when you have a big love-in, a big sit-in, all right, we're all going to sit here and just do our thing in the tents until the school divests itself. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? Hey, we're really going for change here. What can we do that, because we know they're not going to listen to us about the ceasefire. Because, I mean, we even as stupid as we are, we did get into this university. But even as stupid as we are, we understand that this really has no impact whatsoever on what Israel's doing as far as eradicating Hamas. Yeah, it's big fat zero, big goose egg, because they don't care. They're taking care of their business over there. And these knuckleheads here, they're having their little shenanigans, their little deal with their pup tents. On Tuesday morning, a crowd of nearly 100 people waited outside Travis County Jail, waiting for the protesters who were arrested the day before to be released. Various people brought food and water. It's been one day Drives me crazy. We're so hungry. We're so thirsty. It's been a day. Go without water for a week. We'll talk, right? As students sat around preparing for their finals this week, a feeling of frustration and determination permeated the gathering. I have finals, and I don't know if I can go back to campus again because it feels unsafe due to the people who are supposed to protect us, said Arwen Helrain, a UT Austin student who was arrested during another pro-Palestinian protest last week. You've got the absolute blind leading the blind, don't you? It's so bad. It's so stupid. Okay, so that's UT Austin. Protesters set up encampment on University of Washington campus. Now, I recorded this one and we released this one a day or two ago. What happened at the University of Washington? UW is so bad. Is their group got together? Excuse me. Their group got together and they were deemed to be too white. They were too white. They couldn't do their protest because they didn't have enough people of color. They didn't have any Arabs involved. And so the Arab groups, they kind of said, no, you got to stand down. You got to organize this a little bit better because otherwise it's just a bunch of white people virtue signaling and, oh, we can't have that, right? So now they've had a bunch of discussions through the weekend and Monday and yesterday. Protesters set up encampment on University of Washington campus. Yeah, you know what? What the heck? Let's watch just a little bit of video on this. This is ridiculous. This is my old campus. And why not? Here we go. Sorry.
Others
All camping allowed. So yesterday, we had some crazy rain. That's why that's why the tent, there was so few tents there. You didn't want to be outside in the tent yesterday. We had huge hailstorm come through and it just dumped rain. And if you're in one of these tents, that tent is flooded. That tent is toast, even with the rain fly on it, right? You'd need a 4-season tent or at least a strong 3-season tent. And to survive the amount of rain we had came through yesterday afternoon, just as they'd got all set up. So that's why you're not looking at a whole bunch of tents there because, tent rain doesn't really work out. So protesters of the Israel military's action in its war with Hamas in Gaza did an encampment, just like a dozen or so other colleges nationwide. And they set that up yesterday at about 8 a.m. And they're kind of late to the game. But, they feel like they're being left out if they're not involved. UW, which had no camping signs on the property, I thought that was interesting. They basically said up front, no camping. We're not allowing camping here. And then they just let the protesters set up their tents. Said it will monitor the situation throughout the day and respond as appropriate to maintain a safe and secure environment for our campus community, with the exception of the people in the tents running around campus doing hate speech. Yeah, I must be pouncing on this issue. Am I pouncing on this issue? Feels like I might be pouncing, right? Portland State, yeah, they've got that. All right, let's talk about putting a pause on, how do you put a pause on your investment in Israel? That, to me, that just sounds like nonsense. You either fully commit to not invest or you don't. Now we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And from the vast majority of schools that I've seen, they're number one. They're either not, heavily invested in Israel or any of its allies as far as that goes, or they've just said, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Go F yourselves. Because it's so stupid. It's so ridiculous what we've got going on here. So tensions between Gaza Solidarity protesters at George Washington University and police briefly appeared to result in intense moments late Sunday night before the ongoing encampment continued Monday for a fifth day. Dozens of people at Virginia Tech were arrested overnight as the student-led Gaza Liberation Encampment grew to occupy a larger area of campus from the original lawn where protesters made their first stand. You know what? If these people want to impress me, go, don't do it on a nice, comfy lawn. Go in a parking lot. Go in a crushed rock gravel parking lot. You go camp there. You show me how tough you are. That's just not a lot of fun, is it? No. You ever gone on a big mountaineering trip and you got to stay the first night kind of in the parking lot-ish type area, put your tent up or make the decision to stay in your car? Yeah, gravel, not a fun surface to camp on. But, do what you got to do. These kids, they just want to take advantage of the nice green lawn and have some meals brought to them and do their thing, right? So, okay, that's that one. What else we got here? Oh, this is a pretty funny one. This is from Jason Rantz. In his style of writing, diverse group of Seattle college students unite to hate Jews at UW Palestine encampment. Yeah. I mean, stop bombing children. Well, how about we have Hamas stop, doing their violence? What about that? How about we have Hamas invading Israel? What about that? Wow, we can't focus on that. And here's that sign. It said no camping allowed, and they switched it up with all camping allowed. That's so cute. Little pup tents. Finally able to achieve its required diversity because they didn't have enough diversity at first to legitimately hold this protest. University of Washington college students in Seattle are establishing a Palestine encampment to spread their anti-Israel and anti-Semitic hate. UW administrators said that they won't get involved until a Jewish student is injured. Yeah. How's that work? All right, Johnny got injured. Okay, let's go up and get him. Get him from the school. Got to have a crackdown. We knew this was going to happen. UW activists with the Progressive Student Union, or as their Instagram profile reads, since they're too busy fighting social justices to spell check, Progressive Student Union. Did they get it spelled wrong there? Probably. I can't really tell. They deemed UW Palestine encampment too white. They paused to center their hate encampment around Arab and Muslim students. Had to get more of them involved. I mean, you can't have one of these and be racist, right? You can't do that. You got to be inclusive. The two groups, white knights and marginalized community du jour, fought briefly on who would get credit for demonizing Jews until they settled on sharing the bigotry. If you don't know, Jason Rantz he is gay and he is Jewish and he is conservative. That makes him a unicorn in Seattle. Now, I think his writing is great, and the storylines he comes up with they're point on. They vowed a Monday morning encampment yesterday morning so that they might finally emulate the hate encampments popping up across the country. People at UW, they either start things first or they're last to the game because we're so far up on the West Coast. It's like by the time they hear of it and by the time they get word, everybody on the East Coast has been up and running for a week or two. And UW, like, wait for us, wait for us, wait for our great campus. So what can we expect from the UW Palestine encampment? Students are taking time off from their part-time Starbucks barista shifts and gender studies courses to demand a free Palestine while glamping on the quad. That's, if you don't know glamping, it's camping, but it's glamour because you're not really camping. You've got you've got your cot in there, you got whatever. You're not sleeping on a sleeping pad. Oh, hell no. And you're having, homemade food brought to you. Oh, I'm starving. It's been all of 6 hours and I haven't had a latte for 3 of those. So, we need to reload. Hydration is key. They believe Palestine must be freed not from Hamas, terrorist student group, but from Jewish occupation. When these students chant free Palestine, they mean Israel. After all, they believe from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. White students who spend weekends at their parents' homes in Kirkland, Edmonds, Medina, and Mercer Island will undoubtedly form human shields around students of color while they pray 5 times a day to show solidarity with the oppressed. He's basically just absolutely making fun of this whole thing because it's ridiculous. And he goes on to talk about the Intifada revolution is nonviolent. It's like, what? No, yeah. So ridiculous. Outsiders to descend upon campus, 100%. The anti-Semites UW Palestine encampment won't only be for students. It will attract bored, woke housewives and men who declare themselves feminists for dates. It's so true. Dating scene in Seattle, I'm told, is very difficult. Very difficult if you're even a touch conservative. Because things here are just, yeah. So you need a virtue signal. Oh, yeah, I went to a protest the other day. I even had my own sign. Oh, yeah. It's the only way you're going to get a date. Yeah, crazy. Some will be on hand to donate the essentials to the students. Oat milk lattes, granola-free granola, vape cartridges, North Face camping gear, and the username passwords for their parents' Netflix accounts. Because they don't have a job. They're just going to school. Now they're in the quad, in their pup tent, virtue signaling, all campers allowed. Others will be on standby for protection. The Global Solidarity Network, Seattle, will have members in attendance. They were secretly plotting how they would assault police officers in order to de-arrest, a term that sounds official, but it's just a made-up term for illegally stopping an officer from arresting a Jew-hating activist who broke the law. Just crazy stuff, right? Crazy stuff that should not be happening, but it is. And UW administrators under the permissive president, Anna Marie Koss, I don't even know how to pronounce her last name, will allow the illegal occupation of the quad until a Jew is physically harmed. Oh, yeah, that's not good. And then Jason goes on to say, okay, you're kind of doing this and this for security. It's so bad, right? It's so bad. Here we go back to criticism and praise of Texas governor after dramatic use of troopers on protesters. After this ridiculousness, I'm totally okay with it, right? I'm totally okay with these. I mean, look at this guy's his mask. Do you really need a mask? No, you don't. Whole thing is a bunch of kids LARPing, isn't it? These are kids that are just straight up live action role playing with, adult-sized bodies and pea-brain-sized brains because they don't even know where this is located. They don't know the history. They don't know the background. They don't know their chance. They don't have a clue about any of that, but they're just all so worked up and they're told that this is what they should be doing. If you want to be, outside of the box and you really want to get some change going, this is what we're doing. It's not doing anything. It's not doing anything except getting some of these kids arrested. You know what? You can have a whole bunch of that. But as far as the whole violence thing, it'll be interesting to see because you've got campus security, right? And that's the big kicker. Or in the case of Texas, bringing the state troopers or National Guard. You've got, it's not like you're marching in downtown Seattle where you're only going to have the police who are going to be taking care of that. You've got security police, you've got state police, you've got, City of Seattle police at UW. You've got all of that. How's this going to go down when you start to have some, marches go on and they march down somewhere and set something on fire? Because that's where we sit. I mean, you're going to have that, right? And you're going to have some riots. We are right on that cusp of the rioting happening because invariably that's what you've got going on. And these far left groups, they are itching. They are itching to get those riots going. It's been, a lot of verbal assaults and a lot of verbal violence, if that's a thing. And I think it is hate speech. Not down with that. You say whatever you want, but you want to hate a group of people, you want to hate somebody. All right. Yeah, but don't do that on campus. You know what I mean? It's just so ridiculous. But we know that that's their MO. That is their whole deal. And this is where we sit. So I think moving forward here, because you're going to have states that are either going to tolerate it or not tolerate it. And when they don't tolerate it, that gets them all worked up because all of a sudden they've been oppressed. Now they are the ones that are being oppressed because they're trying to help those who are being oppressed, right? Gaza Strip. I mean, it's so crazy. Half of these people, if they went over there, oof, their lives would end very quickly, or else they'd just be absolutely destroyed. And yet they don't really get that. They're like, yeah, no, we support them. We like this cause. This is a good cause. And all that is for them is it's exactly that. This is a cause. This is a cause that they can get behind. They can virtue signal. And it's absolutely absurd. I mean, we've seen the video. I mean, who's going to be proud of your kid doing that? I certainly wouldn't be. I'd be like, all right, I got to respect your freedom of speech deal there, son. But what in the F are you doing? This is ridiculous. There's no point to this. You've got absolutely zero point to this. Yeah, but I could hear, one of my kids saying, but Dad, it's my right to do so. Yeah, but it's my right as your dad to say that you're a moron for doing that. That's what I'd be doing. That's what I'd be saying. All right, I'm going to wrap up this one. We'll do an outro here, and then I'll hang with you guys on the live stream, see what you guys have been talking about. All right, Tristan, here is our outro. Thank you so much for watching this video. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good YouTube stuff, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again for being here. Bye for now. All right, let's go to the live stream. See what you guys have been up to. And thanks for being here, live stream people. Let me find my cursor. It gets hidden here. Where? You know what? I'm going to do this. And there it is. There we go. All right. I'm going to kind of start at the top. Yale is a nice town. You know what? A lot of those schools are in nice towns, right? Both sides are in the war grift. Yeah, everybody's in the war grift, right? Bring back nut houses. I'm okay with that. Smurf child. That's what I always think of, Samantha. When I see somebody with blue hair, I think, you look like a Smurf. Is that blue hair? It's like that electric blue, right? You just look like a Smurf. Who wants to be a Smurf? What I think it is, I think it's a bunch of, soy boys who have their girlfriends tell them, I'd love to see you in blue hair. Love to see you in blue hair. They go, oh, my girlfriend really likes me to have blue hair. I have it. She just orders me about. And, now, you never see big roided up guys from the gym sporting blue hair, do you? No, it's not really a thing, is it? No. It's a bunch of soy boys that are like, what else can I do to make you happy? Right? All right. They don't even know where it is. 100%. That's they don't even know where it is. Yeah. What are we protesting and where is it? Special Smurfs. They're special, all right. They were always violent. These groups are always violent. They just kind of hide behind what levels of violence they're going to have. And that's why I wanted to do today's live stream on this topic, because I think you're turning that violent Smurfs. We'll have ice cream every day. Trying to move my cursor. There we go. All these kids need a 2-week re-education in Gitmo. Maybe a 2-week orientation. You know what? I think they need a 2-week orientation in Gaza. Let's send them over there. Let's send them over there and just see how that goes. Yeah, you might have some fallout because some of them might get, I don't know, tossed off of a building of a roof. These people are going to end up with felony indictments. Maybe in Texas, maybe in Florida, here in Washington, they get bailed out and they will not have charges filed unless they do something really bad. Even the kids breaking into the library or the building at Columbia, I bet you they hide behind Freedom of speech, right? 20 years of Middle Eastern wars got us here. Isn't that the truth? One-way flights to Palestine. Yeah, let's do that. All right, here you go. Here's your ticket. You want to really change up the world? Why don't you go protest there and see how that works out? Yeah, do that. And if you could, let us know how that's going. And absolutely nutty, right? Black Lives Matter / Antifa 2.0, same weirdos. Absolutely. So where do they go to the restroom? If they're on campus, they use campus restrooms. They'll go into the food court center, and you've got restrooms there, and all the public buildings. I mean, you've got Antifa on campus. That's what you've got. And they, if they get a hall pass from the university president, which basically means if they're not driven out, then they've got a hall pass. They can use whatever bathrooms are on campus. That's why they tend to go to the campuses, because there's so much, they're so much more, flexible in dealing with the far left agitators. Whereas if you had far right in any of these, it just would not. It wouldn't go down well, would it? You'd have. It'd just be crazy. Screams then silence on YouTube. Yeah, words are words. Words are words, right? You got words of hate. Words of hate. Yeah. So they need to show student ID to be on campus. That's a good point. Some of these schools have said we're only allowing students with ID. We're only allowing students with ID to camp in the encampments where they've got their little pup tents. Pooping Smurfs. Yep. They're pooping Smurfs with blue hair, right? Pulled our daughter from Sonoma State University in California during the George Floyd crap. She's now a bartender at BJ's. Deprogramming still in process. Man, that is a tough one. If you're a parent and your kid gets caught up in some of this, my oldest son, initially he didn't quite understand all this. And he was like, hey, poor George Floyd, he got murdered. And I'm like, son, here's the reality. This is the deal. This is the drill. And that's why all these groups, they're basically, jumping on the George Floyd deal. And, this is one of the most disingenuous protests you'll ever see, especially when they go around tearing into buildings and tearing into stores and robbing stores, and, bombing cars. I saw a security truck that had been parked in Bellevue Square during the George Floyd riots, bombed. I heard it. It was boom, and went to see the smoldering truck that had been parked to deter people from getting into that parking lot where there was a bunch of stores. I mean, that, bombing of a truck, are you going to see that kind of stuff? Don't really know, but you're going to see massive pushback between these folks that are on campus that aren't students and campus security, because at some point in time, college is just going to say got enough about the. Has anyone talked about the lab rats release last night? No, I haven't heard about that. I need to. Is that a thing? Is that really a thing? All right. Let's keep moving up. I got to scroll down here. Never hire a Columbia grad. That's a good one. Colombian grads from Mexico. Sometimes you guys are rough. But you know what? $65,000 for this Shiite? Yeah, I mean, people are talking about Jewish faith versus Jewish heritage. Okay, yeah. Man, there's a lot of comments here. I'm just going to go with the very last ones, see what you guys are talking about. Protesters are young and think they just want to feel what it was like to be in the late 1960s. Yeah, that is exactly what it feels to me as well, right? They've read about all this change that happened because of this. And they think they want to be part of that. but they don't even know what they're talking about. It's absolutely crazy. Yep. Just absolutely nutty. All right, guys, that's it for me. I got to move on with my Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And we'll do another one on Thursday. How's that? Are we doing Thursday? May not have Thursday. I got to check my schedule. We've got a conflict going on there. All right. Thanks again. And I will catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.